In this week's episode, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of the Writer's Journey podcast and talk about how I design, write, and record this show. Stay tuned. I'm Michael Laron, and this is the Writer's Journey podcast, where you get a window into the life of a working science fiction and fantasy author. I'm on a mission to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I share my progress and discover what inspires my books and how I write them. You can find the show notes for today's episode at michaellaron.com/podcast. This week, I'm taking you behind the scenes of my writing process. Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the podcast. I thought I'd take some time this week to talk about how I record this show. Believe it or not, this podcast is a pretty minimal effort for me. I only do podcasts if I can make them easy on myself. I've done many of them over the years, and they can eat up your time with not much benefit in return. So I'm going to walk through every step of how I do this show. I break the show into weekly themes. This helps me keep some variety while also giving the listeners an idea of what to expect. The first week of the month, I talk about the writing life. The second week of the month, I read a page from my sketchbook. The third week of the month, I go behind the scenes of something in my career. The fourth week of the month, I give an update on my writing progress. My ultimate goal is to just be able to turn on my microphone and talk. Because I'm doing a solo podcast, I have to work a lot harder to keep your attention since I don't have a co-host or a person to interview. So to do this, I break each show into segments, and my secret is that I'm usually doing something to catch your ear every 60 to 90 seconds, which equates to about every 150 to 200 words.
Wow.
See what I did there? When I'm writing the scripts for each episode, I start thinking about what kind of sound effects and audio that I want to use. I imagine every episode is like a 3-act play, with a beginning, middle, and end. If I need a sound effect, I grab a public domain sound from freesound.org. I also think in 150-word increments, and I evaluate where I can break the content up. That could be a sound effect, it could be a joke, a turn of thought, music, whatever. I find that small cues at certain intervals keep you listening. It's called pattern interrupt, and it's something I learned to do quite effectively with video when I had my YouTube channel. I break up the larger segments of the show with a transition sound, which you'll hear right now. Since I have a pretty good format established, the next step is to write the script. I set a hard stop for myself at around 1,000 words, sometimes a little more. I find that this number translates very nicely into a 5 to 7 minute show. It usually takes me about 20 minutes to write, edit, and proofread each script, which, if you think about all the episodes for the month, it's a little over an hour. I have fun when I'm writing these episodes, and it takes me nothing to sit down and write 1,000 words about myself, my writing, or my thoughts on something. I don't even have to think twice about it. And because I'm a one-draft writer, I trust myself to come up with the best thought the first time, and I spend only a few minutes reviewing what I wrote. And that's it. From a monthly perspective, I can design, write, record, and publish all of my podcast episodes in about 2 to 3 hours. Once I become more successful, I can scale this and outsource it to someone. When I do that, we're talking around a 1 hour per month commitment for what I think is a pretty high value show. All that to bring good content to you fine folks. If you're interested in starting a podcast, it's something I recommend. It has opened so many different doors and created so many different opportunities and allowed me to develop so many different skills that it's something that I think that a lot of people would benefit from doing. And podcasts have enriched my life in terms of all the podcasts that I've listened to over the years. So, like I said, if you're interested in starting a podcast, you can check the show notes for links to all the equipment and programs that I use. If you have a message, then I recommend looking into podcasting. It's a wonderful, cost-effective way to build an audience, just like I'm doing for this show. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed the show, here are a couple ways to help a brother out. If you're listening to this on Anchor, favorite the show. If you're listening to this on a podcast app, do me a favor and write me a review and share it with your friends. You can, of course, visit my website and learn more about my work at michaellaron.com. If you have a question, send me a voice message on Anchor and you just might hear it on the show. Next week, I'll be giving an update on what I'm currently working on, and I'll be answering your questions. Until then, I leave you with a quote. I like to pretend that my art has nothing to do with me. Roy Lichtenstein.